And welcome to the Metal Mixtape here on KSKQ's 89.5 FM Ashland, Oregon, 94.1 FM Medford, Oregon, and streaming online on kskq.org. It's the boy, it's the Don DJ Ramo. I am just beyond honored to have a virtuoso, the King of Kong, the Count of Monte Cristo, one of the most badass shredding guitar players out there. I literally spent hours last night. I watched the entire Wacken open air performance. I was listening to his new album's 20 Years of the Music Man, the one and only Chris Caffery. What is up, my man?
It's great to be here. I don't even know if I could speak after that intro. I have nothing else to say. No.
Dude, you know what? I've been listening to you for a while. And to be able to have the chance to talk to you, and I'm a guitar player of, it's insane now. It's how time flies. I've been playing 21 years now. Blows my freaking mind. How many years is it for you right now, Chris? Let's blow your mind.
A lot. Where do I go now? I think it's 47 years, something like that.
What a badass, dude. What a badass. And you know what, dude? Listening to you play and watching you play and everything, man, like you haven't lost a step, man. Like there's people out there, I know friends like in their mid-40s and 50s that deal with all sorts of hands issues and all just sorts of like motivation issues, man. But you've just been on it, man. Like you've been playing for so long and written, been a part of all these amazing projects and albums and everything. Just before we even get further into the interview, but like, how do you keep yourself warm and limber and also motivated on the guitar? Because like the output of content you have is insane, man.
I guess never underestimate the never-ending fear of a day job. No, it's just I love what I do, man, and I consider myself to be one of the luckiest people alive to be able to have, what I wanted to do as a child when I was, probably 4 or 5, and I first started thinking I wanted to play guitar, and to be able to live that life and have that be what I do for a living. I'm always I feel very lucky and special to have that. So, I would always try to think like, you can't really change what happens when you get older. I mean, everybody gets older, but I think that, your personal health is probably the one thing that you can try to control. So I just try to keep myself as healthy as possible. And, I've had my moments. We all have, I'm not the I'm not the freaking baby Jesus with life. It's everybody had their moments, and I know that, but I've also learned from a lot of them. So I go out of my way to try to be as healthy as I can, and try to keep my playing on a scale that I feel is worth people spending their money to see if that's what they have to do. I mean, life has gotten very expensive, and I want to make sure that I don't ever have people feel that I've taken advantage of them by them coming to see me or listen to me. It's like that. I'm very lucky to have people that are willing to go see the different bands and projects and things that I do. So I always make sure that I try to give back to them that they've given us with being able to be there to play.
No, amen to that, man. Like, and that's I'm sure any fan from any of your projects is stoked to hear that from you, man. Because you were talking about you wanted to put out a product out there that's that's not necessarily worth playing, but just like brings out that experience and emotion, and still to this day, man, you absolutely destroy it. Did you ever have to build up your confidence growing up, like, or was like when you picked up a guitar when you were younger, was it pretty much like pick up and go, like what do you think the biggest challenge for you was, like being like a guitar player starting up and then getting signed? What do you think was like the biggest challenge and all that?
Well, I mean, I just I wanted to find an identity, I think, and I didn't want to known as somebody that was kind of trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of difficult because you have so many solid influences. I mean, you could look at Take It Downing and Michael Schenker and Randy Rhoads and look at them and see that, I used guitars like them and clothes like them, and certain ways you perform in the set. But I just try to be me, you know, and that is something that takes time to develop. As far as the actual playing itself, you know, I was self-taught a lot, so there was a lot of things I got to learn from other people, and I just, you know, try to make myself a better guitar player all the time. You know, I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world, I never claimed to be, but I know how to play guitar, and I just enjoy growing on that. You know, I don't think anybody can ever play everything there is to play with that instrument, and I just know there's so much more that I could still learn. I think that's the thing that keeps me humble, is the fact of knowing that, you know, I'm just experiencing part of what guitar is able to do in what I do with my career.
Does it ever blow your mind now that you, Chris, have like inspired like new generations? Like right now I'm kind of going through like a phase in my life where like people are asking me like advice, and like I know the answer just because I'm older now and all that. Like does it kind of blow your mind that like you're like in this role where I'm sure there's people coming up to you at your shows and being like, Chris, like you're the reason I play, you're the reason, you know, I play certain things. Like, does that ever blow your mind, like when like reality is now at this situation in your career?
No, yeah, it does. Especially when you know, you start. Sometimes I do lessons online, and you know, if kids are coming up to you, one of the kids that I teach is like 17, and he's in a Savatage cover band, and
wow.
You know, he has all my solo records, and when he asks me what I want to learn, he'd be asking me about, you know, one of my songs or one of the songs that I wrote and played on the Savatage records. And it's funny because it's like usually the songs that I wrote and played, I have to spend time remembering.
Yeah.
It's like, what did I do? Because when you're in the studio, you do all these crazy things, and a lot of times if you don't play the song live immediately following it, sometimes you have to actually go back and reteach yourself what it is that you threw down in the studio at that time, and remember exactly where your hands were and, you know, what you were doing to get those particular notes or runs out. And sometimes it's like you could go through teaching them the whole entire song and then remember that you were tuned a whole step down from there when you recorded it. Because sometimes like you could be playing a song that has a drop D and you're just thinking that that's what you did to play the song. And then as you're going through, you're like, wait a second, that's not a drop D, it's the whole guitar from a whole step down. And then you go and reteach them the song you just taught them that you wrote and recorded because you taught of it the wrong way. Like, wait, this is how I actually did it.
Hey, I like that, man. You know what I mean? And that's totally like a real struggle too, especially when you have all these releases and all these tours. Because I couldn't imagine, like, you know, while you're going from projects to projects, and especially your solo project, where like, you know, every tour has like a different amount of time you get to be on stage, prep time, and all that. Like, you know, like I couldn't imagine what your brain goes through when you do have to build a set, you know, like when you are building a set for certain tours and you're building a set like for your solo tours, do you look back on your last tours and kind of just like try to mix it up, or how does your mind process go as far as like choosing what songs you want to do for certain? Because I know when you release a new album, you're going to do like, or like revisit album, you're going to do releases off that, but how does your mindset go about setting up like sets?
You know, you just kind of do like what most bands would do with their sets. You know, they add in songs that most people would expect you to play or want you to play, and then you try to mix it up and add. You know, I don't like to add things that maybe songs that, you know, if you leave something out that everybody hear and you replace it with something that maybe that's not everybody's favorite. I know that like these people are spending money, like I mentioned before, to go see you live. So I know that I try to sometimes not pay attention to exactly how much I want to play, and I let everybody else decide. And it was difficult with the Savatage set because I would play every song. So it's not like when people ask me what to put in the Savatage set, I'm like, you don't want me to answer that question because we'd have a 5-hour set. So it's difficult that way. And it's always funny too because when you go to play these songs live, especially ones you haven't played before, you put a lot of time into working them out and getting ready to play. And then the songs that you've played a lot, whether they were easier to play or not, a lot of times you figure that you don't need to practice as much, and that's you mess up.
Yeah.
So you'll mess up the 4-chord power ballad song before you mess up the freaking 400 song that has changes and everything. And it's because you paid, your brain has put that attention into that song, and when you're playing it, you kind of focus that attention. And some of these other songs, you might be like thinking about the freaking doing the lawn. You know, it's like in the power ballads. It's like, hey, you know, hey, wait, did I freaking remember to shut the electric on? So you sit there thinking of different things while you're playing the easier songs, and all of a sudden comes the clam, as you call it, the wrong note.
Oh yeah.
I always say it's like, you know what? It's usually with me, the wrong notes come out in the part where I'm playing by myself and they're completely noticeable. And I'm like, it's just a way for people to know that we are actually live. You know, it's like I didn't record a wrong note and fake it on stage. So
yeah, you didn't Milli Vanilli it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
No, dude. Hey, I love that, man. And you know what? When I watch your live videos, you could hear you up there. You could hear the guitar and everybody else, and I just respect the hell out of you guys for performing that. You know what I mean? And like, you know, I'm sure you've gotten this question a trillion times, but I'm gonna ask it because I'm passionate about it. Because this year, for the first time ever in my journalist career, I'm going to Wacken this year. And this has been a dream of mine since I was like 14 years old. I'm 35 now, and you know what? This has always been like the mecca for me for like performances and shows. And I always told myself that like once I reached like this festival that, you know, my dream's gonna be fulfilled. You know, and I get to go this year. And you know what? Last night I was listening to 20 years of the Music Man, and then my algorithm threw me your performance at Wacken Open Air 2015, which is just, for me, just an incredibly intelligent performance. Did you know you had it in you as a little kid that you were one day going to be performing something so complex as this?
No, you know, I really didn't know what I was doing as a little kid. I just knew what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that that's what wound up happening because I didn't have a backup plan. So, you know, I was a very smart kid. I was a straight A student in school, and I had 156 IQ, and I say had because there's probably like 56 of it left now after all the years. But it was just one of these things where I didn't want to. I graduated high school when I was 16. I doubled up years and got out to go play music, and I'm just lucky that you know, I was in the right place at the right time, and wound up getting involved with Paul O'Neill, and you know, my life had changed from that moment on, and I was just very fortunate. I never really knew exactly where things were going. I just had always felt like that's where I was supposed to be.
And that's incredible, and I think that's a real thing. You know what I mean? Like you take that chance and you do go all in. You know. And a lot of people say like, you know, like, oh, like you get lucky, and it's like, no, you put yourself in position to receive luck. You know, you put yourself.
I had to be in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
I will admit that. Like if I wasn't where I was, I wouldn't have got the opportunities that put me in touch with the band, that got me to work with Paul, that got me into. It's like you do have to have some way of creating your own destiny. You're not gonna, if you sit there and play to every single YouTube video in the world and you become the greatest guitar player on the planet, if you're not channeling yourself on the net, people aren't going to see it. Well, the same way in the past when, you know, I wanted to get my career moving, I wouldn't have gotten to another level if I stayed home and played video games. It's like, you know, I needed to get out there and see people.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I was fortunate enough, like I said, to be in the right place at the right time when there was an actual really good pro gig available with the band Heaven, and I got into that band, and Paul was producing and managing it, and then he started producing Savatage, and he was the, you know, initiator of having that band get a second guitar player, and that just became where I had moved, into that family from there. But like I said, it all happened to be just being in the right place at the right time.
I absolutely love it, dude, and hell yeah. So before we move on from the Wacken performance, which was just insane, because you guys are all playing with like in-ears and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, it's
so
especially in a situation like that. We had, Savatage played on its own, but when we played with TSO and as TSO, we were running both stages, so you had to have in-ears. I mean, also like we have to in all the TSO performances anyway, because a lot of the lights are synced to the sound, so you have to start and finish on time, and now it's just, it's better for us to have the ability to hear what we're doing. I think it makes us play tighter. I think it keeps the band locked in, and we're definitely, like I said, I think the bands play better now. It's not the most fun you could ever have. There's nothing more fun than turning a freaking Marshall amp all the way up and blasting your ears worse than they already are. But it's very good to be able to have the time codes and the band, and hear your vocals better and your parts, and know when you're locked right in with the band. You can hear it right there.
Okay. No, I know. I definitely, man. It was just, I just started using in-ears, and like I just couldn't imagine how many mixes you had in your ears. You know what I mean? Especially when you have two stages going and all that. I'm just like, man, I'd be losing it.
I don't get too crazy with mine. I just want to be able to hear. So once it's okay, I don't really go nuts on trying to perfect it. But I mean, especially with TSO, the sound and light scenario is very real. So I could not stand in the back of the arena and play with the band without having the in-ears, because I would be playing after them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much slower sound comes than the lights. It really is. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it may not seem like a lot, but it's like a half a second, and that's eternity when you're playing along with music.
No, I dig it. No, I appreciate that. I was last thing I was gonna ask you before we start getting into like the album and everything, like when you're playing a new country, or you're traveling to a new country, for a first time traveler, what's some do's and don'ts?
I don't know. I mean, always be familiar with where your hotel is. And, be up on the currency if you need to have, if you need to get some money to get some things on the streets. Not everywhere has credit cards, and there's always, when you're traveling to other countries, places that have little markets and things where you can get little things. So I always try to pick up some money. Like I said, know where I am. Never get yourself put in jail. I mean, because it's, it's not always a guarantee you can get out if you're not in your own country. So, just try to be a good person, enjoy where you are. Don't take anything for granted, because the way the world is nowadays, you never know if or when you can actually get back to someplace that you're going to for the first time. So, try to do everything you can, but, and like I said, always remember where your hotel is.
I dig it. Has any of like anything going on like in the political system and all that, has that affected your travel at all? Because I know there's been bands that have been having to cancel because like the visas and all that, and passports are starting to get complicated. Things are starting to get more expensive. Have you experienced anything of that?
Well, you have to pay attention to it. So it hasn't affected any of our travel. We always try to stay on top of it. I mean, nothing affected travel more than 9/11, and that had nothing to do with, visas. That just happened it just changed the way we traveled. All of a sudden you had to stop taking liquids, and you couldn't have your friends walk you to the gate at the airport, and, your baggage got lighter, and you had to, like I said, it became less fun to fly after 9/11, because flying used to be like, really not that much different than getting on a subway or a bus or whatever you were doing, it just you had to get through security, and you know, the metal detector showed if you had a freaking gun or a knife. You know, it wasn't like they were asking you to take your shoes off and remove your computers, and you can't have anything over freaking 2.5 ounces and this and that and the other thing. And it changed, you know, and I think that same kind of craziness on detail may be, I don't know, creeping its way over to the customs part of the whole trip and routine. But, you know, I think if you're, there may be situations people encounter that happen to be bad luck. But if you're a good person and you don't have anything to hide, just go through it and deal with these people. They don't, you know, they don't want to be assholes to you. You know, they're trying to do their job. So if the situation happens where you think it's the wrong kind of situation for you, just lay back and try to let them do their job, because, you know, it just makes it worse if you make it worse. I always say that to my friends, even before it got to that point where people would complain to the people at the airport counter about, you know, a plane delay that had nothing to do with the girl at the counter. And I would always be like, you know, you got to understand, that girl at the counter had nothing to do with your plane delay.
Exactly.
It's going to have everything to do with what plane you get on next. You know, so don't, just try to be nice, because that person can sit there and go, oh, no, there's nothing available right now. You know, which is probably what I would do if somebody was screaming at me about something I didn't do. You know, so they want to wait for the next person in line that's being nice to them. So it's hard. You know, I think a lot of things have changed, and they're going to continue to change. And you know, I'll just try to stay ahead of the game. Do your research and don't go to the airport unprepared.
Amen, dude. I appreciate those words, man. And I agree, man. You know, like, you know what I mean? You're getting the privilege to fly in the sky, you know what I mean? As long as you don't have anything to hide and you're being a good person and follow the rules, and it's like, you know, I think it's a blessing, man, you know?
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't try to give anybody any problems. And, you know, you will run into people that are a-holes in the airport and workers that take their job a little bit too seriously, but I just like nod at them and keep going. Like, whatever, I've got way more things to worry about, whether or not this guy with the fake badge and a freaking, you know, in a Halloween costume that makes him have a job that gives him some kind of weird authority is got an attitude problem. It's like, whatever. What do you want to touch my nuts and make sure I got nothing there? Go ahead. It's like, whatever. I'll move through, and when I get through there and I get to the gate and that whole torturous existence of getting through all that's over with, I'm just happy to fucking sit down, and then my next step is hoping my plane lands. You know, it's like I take step by step. Step 2, will plane land?
I love it, Chris. I love it. We only have maybe like 5 minutes left. Just to talk a little bit about the new album, 20 Years of the Music Man. First of all, I've been a huge fan of Jeff Scott Soto forever. You know, with his time with Yingwei and everything he's just done in his career. Dude, that song, Do You See What I See Now, is, by the way, hands down, such a great song. Super heavy, has attitude. I love how you brought back Last Time from over 20 years ago. I'm talking about the 3 singles out, Then She's Gone. But dude, working with Jeff Scott Soto, how'd you know you wanted to work with him on this track? And dude, this track had a very heavy direction that I absolutely love. Tell me a little bit about working with Jeff and what was the idea behind dropping this track?
Well, that song was the reason why probably that I was doing this record. I mean, I was recording and releasing singles, but when I was like, this song's pretty cool. I got to find a way to get it out there. And I had originally thought about maybe doing a 20-year anniversary of Goddamn War, which was the Warp record, and putting it on vinyl, because I'd never had a vinyl record. But the label was not into me doing a double LP and kind of asked me to, do I have some unreleased songs and ways to make it into, just a single record. And I thought about it, and I just didn't like it, so I came up with the idea of doing the Music Man. Did 20 years of Music Man. I got what I wanted anyway. But with that song is very heavy. It kind of has like a Dr. Butcher sort of feel to it, and I wanted a different character for the voice in the chorus because I was already singing raspy in the verses.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how do I get darker with my own voice? So it being a song that has like a Dr. Butcher style, I'm going, well, I can't use John because Savatage is playing again, so that's a no-no right now to be, putting your Savatage guitar players together, something else at the time when Savatage is finally playing together again. So I was like thinking about it, and we did the Beethoven's Last Night tour, and Jeff was Mephistopheles on that tour, and he was always so good at that role. And when we were doing the pay-per-view during COVID, we were in Nashville rehearsing, and he said to me, how come you don't ever have me sing on your solo records? And the reason being is mostly because I sing on my solo records. But I thought about it, and I was like, well, maybe Soto can do this part. So I emailed him and asked him, and he was like, yeah, man. So I sent it to him, and he got me back his tracks like a day later, and it was just married it really well. We're working on a video now to finish the. I know the single's out, but the video's not done yet, and that's going to be released sometime right before the 13th when the record comes out. Yes, and like you, I've been a huge fan of Jeff since I was a little kid, man. I was 16, probably 16 years old when Rising Force came out, maybe 17. Yeah. And who didn't freaking think that was one of the greatest metal vocal performances ever when that fucking came out? So, oops. But Jeff was more than happy to do it, and I have, Derek Sherinian doing a keyboard solo with my guitar solo, and I've got, Tishy and McNabb on the rhythm section there. So it's a great freaking band. The song's really heavy and really strong, and I think that out of all the stuff that I could put out there right now, I think it's a really good representative of where my heart and soul is as far as a musician. I'm so happy that Savatage is back in my life, and this, part of me is that, style of music that was born of Savatage and Butcher, and I'm really happy to have that song come out as one of the 3 singles that led this record.
Dude, I'm happy too, man. It's something I'm gonna be showing my girlfriend later and everything. It's a great album. 20 songs of just unbelievable destruction. I don't want to take too much time because I know we got the next journalist coming up, but Chris Caffery, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, dude. I value everybody's time, and I just thank you for taking time out of your day to talk about 20 years of the Music Man, and just making one of my dreams come true by letting me talk to somebody I always look up to in the music industry. And Chris, I hope you have a beautiful day, a good relaxing day, and I will see you around, and thank you so much for being on the Metal Mixtape.
No, thank you very much. It was great talking to you, and I hope you have a great summer, and I'll hopefully see you on the road somewhere.
Easily, Chris. You have a beautiful day, man.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.